Now, what is wrong with claim transfer payment? Not all country government give free money, right? No, not all. Maybe anyone wants to try and see this question? Maywen, what do you think is wrong with this for me saying claim transfer payment in your consumption function? What's wrong? Maywen, you here? Let me ask 3 students. Jieming, Maywen, and who should I? Isaac. Maywen say don't know. Jieming? You all can actually switch on your microphone. No idea. Isaac? What's the question? I don't know what's the question. I mean, what's the problem with saying there is a claim of transfer payment? Increase disposable income but no change in saving. Okay, I think Janine got it. Okay. Now, first, right, there are a lot of bugs in this place. Okay, bugs, I mean like there is a lot of not so good answers here. I mean not so good answer, but like what I see from the textbook, right, for this sentence here, I feel like I can question this statement a lot. First, like what Janine say, increase disposable income but no change in saving. It means that if there is transfer payment happen, right, it should actually help you increase your disposable income. Okay, why is that so? Your disposable income, again, we know by meaning or definition is that disposable income is actually your income after tax plus any transfer payment, right? Plus any transfer payment by the government. So if your YD equal to Y minus T plus transfer payment. So if there is a transfer payment happen, it should actually increase your income, your disposable income, right? So it cannot be still using the claim transfer payment to use on it, because it initially will then increase your level of disposable income, right? And that is one part. Now, another bug for this question or this statement here is that transfer payment is done by the government. And if you haven't already realized that, we have first assumed that initially there is no government sectors, no overseas sectors, right? So we can't possibly draw on transfer payment in this case. Okay, guys, that is what I have thought about. And I went on and checked the meaning of transfer payment. I cannot twist and say that the transfer payment is by your parents transferring you the money, but most of the economics way, transfer payment is done by the government. And if there's no government, it's impossible for you to draw on the government. So, Yujun and all of you, claim of transfer payment is not a way for this saving in your consumption function. In your consumption function, assuming that there is no government, no other, no trade with the other economy, right? There is no government involved. You can't draw on transfer payment. Okay. The only way you can talk about it is to say that there is a sale of asset. Either the person sell their car in order to get some amount of money, right, to spend, or borrow from the bank, or draw on the person's past saving. Okay, the best answer would be the person draw on the past saving. Okay, it's the one that you don't have to doubt, you don't have to think so much. That's confirmed, that would be correct. Okay, now that's one thing. Okay, for number 4. Okay, now let's go on and look at the next question that you all have problem with, right? If there is a change in non-income factors affecting consumption, and as a result of consumption rises in $50 billion at each level of income, what will happen to the position, right, of your consumption function? How will that be like on your consumption function? Okay, if we have a rise of $50 billion, right, how will that happen to your consumption function? Now, if it is of a factor that, okay, if we look at this graph again, eventually this graph is the same meaning, I mean same figure as the one that you are doing in your exercise there, right? It is saying that if it is induced or it is caused, right, by any other factors that is not affected by disposable income, right? If you don't change your disposable income, let's say, what are the other factors that could affect consumption? Let me pick Jessica. What are the other factors that could affect your consumption level? Right? We do have disposable income. What are the others? Any of them? Just say one. Jessica, you here? Oh, you're searching interest rate. Oh, okay. Now, if there is an increase in interest rate, okay, very good. Sorry, if there is a decrease in interest rate, right? Only if there is a decrease in interest rate, then it could induce or it could increase your consumption, right? It could increase your consumption by, let's say, in the question it says 50 billion. Okay, now because this interest rate doesn't really it's not a function of your level of disposable income, right? Level of disposable income, right, is another factors that affect consumption. But now we have another factor, interest rate, that affect your consumption. How then can we present that in this graph? Again, like any of the economics graph that we have talked about before, right? If it is not right, the factors that affect this whole thing here is not by any of these two axes, what happened is you will see a shift of the graph because it is not of the disposable income. It is not affected by the disposable income. With a sudden increase in $50 billion, you should see that your autonomous consumption level increased by 50 billion. So what I mean here is, from this 60, if you can see here 60, maybe I change another color, red color. Okay, from 60, right, it will increase by $50 billion. So it becomes somewhere here, right? And what you need to do is, with the same, does your MPC change, monetary propensity to consume, change? No, it doesn't, right? The only thing that changes is your y equal to mx plus c, that c component, that autonomous component, right? Because it's not of the equation, it's not part of YD. So what you will see is a straight line up like that, shifting up. And what you then see is that there is, okay, probably this is a not so accurate reading lah. Okay, now if on your own graph your one is accurate, then you should be able to come up with a correct figure. Right now I have 300. Now here your autonomous consumption, it becomes $110 billion, right? But does your MPC change? No. Does your YD amount change? Yes. Okay, now your YD amount change to this part here, right, where your consumption spending also increase, and your level of disposable income also change. With this increase, in your consumption, it increases your the whole curve up. It shifts upwards. Okay, so that is how this question should be like here. Okay, so then you label that part as H. Okay. Now, alphabet I, assume the rate of consumption falls by 0.6 to 5. Right? What is the name of the economists give for the rate of consumption? This one, easy, MPC. Right? The rate of consumption. We have learned about that, the gradient. If the gradient falls from 0.6 to 0.5, how would that be? What would that do to your consumption function and your level of your output? How will your consumption function? Does it decrease or increase? And how will your level of output be like? Okay, so you can go up to your graph, right? If you cannot think from mathematically, but you need to see a graph. Okay, let me erase this part, right? This one is in the recording, so I hope you all have jotted down. Okay, now this is the next question, right? If your gradient has become less steep, so you will still start at the same autonomous consumption, right? Your autonomous consumption doesn't change for question I. So you only change the gradient of it. So what happens is that you will see something like that. Okay, it's not so accurate right here. Okay, you will see a decrease of that, the steepness decrease. Okay, and when your steepness decrease, right, it then you will see where does it cut your 45-degree line. So then you can answer the question whether your level of output has increased or decreased, right? Of course, decreased. And how about your level of this, or how about your consumption amount? Also decrease. That's it. It's just a shifting of the curve, right? For H, because it is the changing of your autonomous consumption, right? And changing of your autonomous consumption, right? It could be due to interest rate change, then it induce an increase of consumption, or it could be, Darren feeling very wealthy, and so wealthier feeling, and so Darren increase the consumption, and everyone in the country is like Darren, so everyone increase at the same time. Okay, or it could be what are the other factors that we have here? Let's say expectation, right? Expectation, it could be due to expectation, it increase your consumption, right? Or it could be due to availability of credit, right? Eventually, it's the same as interest rate. Okay, these things that are not of YD, right? It will cause a shifting upward. Or if it is a decrease of the level, then it is shifting downward lah. Okay, I think quite understandable for this part here, right? Now let's move on to today's work, right? Today we are going to look at the financial sectors, and I am hoping to actually move on to see the whole aggregate expenditure by today. Not sure how the time will go, but we'll see. Okay, please stop me when you feel like your brain is frying, or maybe you are already having like brain fry by now. But please, guys, you need to go through this. Okay, if you don't understand, you can watch back the recording or find me, or I can explain to you. Okay, now adding to the financial sectors. Now, before that, let me come back here. I just uploaded a notes, which is here, right? Like just uploaded. Okay, so sorry, because I just constructed it out. Okay, now eventually it's the same thing as your, similar thing as your, your your PowerPoint here, right? If you don't have this copy at this moment, it is okay. Okay, but what is most important is to follow me to draw the graph. Okay. Now, adding financial sectors. Before we add the financial sectors in, just a little bit recap for what happened yesterday. Now, we do have a consumer spending, level of disposable income at this point, right? And we are going to first draw your 45-degree line. Okay, 45-degree line, and then you name this 45-degree line as 45 degree. Okay, then because Miss Elisa is using this, so she can't possibly draw the dotted line, so she has to erase it. Right, so it is a dotted line because it's not a supply graph or it's not a demand graph. It is not any of a real function line. Okay, there's no equation for this function. This is just a reference, okay, of 45 degree. Now, this 45 degree is very significant because of the fact that it shows when any point that consumption function going to cut on this point, it is going to be the macroeconomic equilibrium, where your output spending and your output spending and your incomes are balanced and the economy is unstable. Okay, now after we have this 45-degree line, then we construct our consumption function. Now, at this point, if you are doing consumption function, you need to have the data available for you. If not, you can't possibly draw it, right? So, according to our data yesterday, right, it's 60 of your autonomous consumption, and it cuts at 150, right? So you just draw up, okay, and then you name this as C. Right, and then you have to do some reference down. Okay, it cut as this point. Okay, and this part here is your autonomous consumption. Okay, this autonomous consumption eventually is that whether you have income or not, you still have to spend at this amount. Okay, 150, 150. Now, this is your consumption function. Okay, then you have to construct a saving line, right? Your saving function. Now, your saving function, again, if your autonomous consumption is negative 60, right? Positive 60, right? Your saving should be negative 60. Okay, and then sorry, I want to use another color, right? Negative 60, right? And then you draw a line up, right? That is your saving function, right? It has to cut at 150 on the level of disposable income when it is 0. Okay, this part here I'm mentioning, right? And this is what we call the saving. Okay, now if you want, you can, okay, now then you need to highlight this part, okay, or color it, right? In your exam, you can actually bring in color pencil to color, or different color pen to indicate that different different parts of it. Okay, so you want to color it. Okay, and then you mentioned that this is your this saving. Okay, and this is your saving. Cool. Now that's it. That's it for this graph. Okay. Now, if you want, you can go on and label, right? C is equal to 0.6 YD plus, right, 60. Okay. And then you can label S equal to 0.4 YD minus 60. Okay. Now, this is your, what we call your consumption function, right? There is no government, no export, no imports, right? And there's no financial sectors. Okay, so you only have your C. Okay, eventually your Y will only contribute to C plus S. Okay, done, good, very nice. Okay, and yeah, here one thing very important is to label your equilibrium here, E or X, whatever, whichever letters you like. Just have to mention that when you explain this graph, you have to explain that E is your equilibrium point where your economy is in, when your output is equal to your spending, is equal to your income, and your economy is unstable. Okay. Now, this is your consumption function. Now, if we look into adding another sectors inside, that is our financial sectors. Now, we will now relax the assumption that consumers can only spend or save. Okay. Now, the saving that they use, right, are channeled from household to firms. Okay. So the amount of money that they save can then used to be used by the firms for drawing it for investment. Okay, now we are thinking from perspective that the saving will be drawn by the firms for investment purpose, right? And now we are using investment spending as a fixed amount. Okay, here it is also independent from the level of income. Okay, if it is independent from the level of income, it is not of factors like how much investment is doesn't really affected by how much people earn as an income. Then it is a little bit like our autonomous consumption, isn't it? It is more on the autonomous side. So we are actually assuming that the investment is an autonomous component in our financial sectors here. Okay, so we are going to use this data to construct that, right? First, I teach you how to read this graph here. I mean this table here. First, you have your YD, right? Again, your income, right? Your disposable income. Okay, disposable income. Okay, and then you use your disposable income has to contribute to your consumption, right? Plus your saving, right? And now what we can see is that your consumption and your saving is still the same as what we did just now, right? From our previous example. Okay, then we do have IP, planned investment, right? And planned investment here, we are saying that it is autonomous, right? And it is a fixed amount, so we put it at 60. Okay, and then we do construct one column here as C plus IP. Okay, now this one will be our little AE graph here, right? Little aggregate expenditure graph. But here we are still, so we are saying that this is your aggregate expenditure. The whole economy, if they are spent on two different places. One is by the household spending. The other one is by your firm spending on investment. Okay. Then we do have this very cheeky little change in inventory. Probably you don't really know what that is for now, but you know that inventory decrease or increase, just like our example yesterday. If there's a Korean cafe, right, and if your customers are coming in lesser, right, during the trial time, now what happens is that you might also decrease, or you might see that your inventory could increase, right? Because the thing that you expect to sell off but it's not sold off, so you will see you have a lot more accumulated into your storeroom there. Okay, now next, the effect on output. How does your output be like? Okay, now first we are going to add from this part here. Okay, now this is basically whatever I have drawn on the top here, right? Now it's just that we will build on this graph here, right? We'll build on this graph here. Do you need some time to construct this graph on your own now? Guys, Are you all like drawing and very busy drawing now? Yes, you need some time. Okay. Now, please draw this, and that your consumption function is cutting at 150. Okay. And then yeah, your consumption function is stop at there, right? And down here is also 150. It's the same graph as this one, right? But just I want to demonstrate a different thing. So please draw this now, okay, as our template, and we want to add on to that. I give you 3 minutes, can finish. 10:40. Maybe after your same break, I need to still teach this chapter here. Cannot teach finish by. I think I've used too much time to discuss about your semester exam paper. Okay, can follow. Anyone who is very weak in your思维 is here. Hi, 思维. Who else that I have missed out? Okay. If your math is relatively weaker, this could be a little bit hard. If your math or your ed math is like your best subject, A++. This one should have no problem. Provided that your ed math is like really understanding it lah, not like just do a lot of exercises like what I did when I was in SPM. Okay. Okay. I think my notes is actually quite helpful. The one that I just constructed this morning. Sorry for the late posting for the notes. There will be another notes posted by today, so please be aware. It will be on multiplier effect. I personally really love this chapter because it's very math based. And if you all didn't know, I was a math teacher. Okay, are we done with drawing? But I thought you didn't like math. You know, my maths application when it was during my time when I was doing OSMAT, right? Of course, like you all think that the math application, some of you all think that the math application is very easy, is the easiest subject ever. I was also like that, and my highest score for, as in like all my subject, the best score for my all subject is actually math. And if you with a class mean mark of 44. I think my marks was like 70 something or 80 something when I was doing the internal, right? I don't think it's easy. You know why? Because I realized that after I joined OSMAT and did maths application, then I realized that how I understand math has been quite different from what I should have done it. Okay, so maths application actually helped me to understand the core of why the function is as such. It's helped me to understand the more basic thing, even in a deeper way. Yeah. So this is how I think why I still love economics for this part. Okay, because of the math, and it really translates the math here. Okay, now we done. Okay, grandmama story finished. Now, yes, Adrian. Do you all have the peer-to-peer teaching session? The non-income question hall. Yeah. Yes, how's the non-income question? the graph is shifting to the left or right. Oh my dear, it's up or down. Okay. If it is an increase in your aggregate expenditure and autonomous part, right, it should be shifting up. It's not shifting left or right, shifting up. The whole curve shifts up. Okay, unlike demand and supply shift left or right, AE curve shift left, up or down. Okay, now we're done with constructing the basic of this, right? Now, what happens here is if we are saying that there is a fixed amount of our investment, right, of 60. So 60 plus 60, right? So first we need to find this thing here. That is to find out how much is that of this autonomous increase, right? So if this is your 60, right, plus another 60 of your investment, then it should be somewhere around here, right? So you probably make a cross here. Sorry, that's around here, right? Okay, that's around here. Now, because your, what do you call that? Your MPS, I mean MPS doesn't change. It doesn't actually affect that. What happened here, you see that with a fixed increase of your investment, right, you will see that the gradient doesn't change, right? The gradient doesn't change, and it is an upward shift of this and what we call C plus I. Okay, now if we want to just show how individually I is like, right, what we can see here is on this circle, this light blue circle, right, where it marks 60, okay, you draw a straight line to show that your investment is this amount. Okay, your investment is this amount. This is your investment. This is investment. Sorry, maybe I use another color. Right, I use another color so you don't get mess up. Okay, here I will draw a straight one here. Okay, right. Okay, now this is my investment. The orange color is my investment only. Okay, but the light blue color is my investment plus consumption. Okay, the light blue color is consumption plus investment. How is that like in our economy, right? And then this is basically that. Okay, after you have finished this. Now, next, what you need to do is to find out the macroeconomic equilibrium. Okay, again, it is a place where you actually intersecting with your 45-degree, right? So you go down. Okay, cool, right? And then, of course, you also want to refer it to the other side, right? Which is your 300 and 300. Okay, now with this increase, you see that here we can label B, right? Here we label A, B. Okay, so your macroeconomic equilibrium has changed from A to B. Okay, has changed from A to B. Now, how is our investment like? Okay, investment with an increase in investment, right? With an addition of investment into the economy, you see that it actually brings up your level of disposable income as well as your consumer spending, right? I think this part here, right, we don't name it as consumer spending anymore because of the fact that we have added in our investment. So we call this aggregate expenditure. Okay, so in total, the whole economy spending has increased, right? As billion no need lah. I lazy to write billion. Can lah. Okay. Now, this is what happened. Okay, now with an increase in your investment from C becomes C plus I, you see that the whole economy has increased in its spending and your income, and probably your output also increased, of course, because it's at the balance, right? You have changed your balance, okay, to this part. Okay, now what happened is that I want you all to look into this part here, right? Okay, now we just look at the 45-degree line and your C plus I. Okay, now if your economy is at, let's say, if your economy is producing at 200, your income is at 200, right? And then you will find out that if your disposable income is at 200, how much will that be? 200. YD equal to 200, you will see that you have 240. Okay, here is 240, here is 200. Okay, now in this case, what can you see? What can you observe? Is that your 45-degree line is here, but your C plus I is above of it. Right? It's above of it, meaning your spending is higher than your income of the total economy, right? The level of disposable income is lower than your spending, right? Now, what happened or what it means here, right, is actually during 200 level of disposable income, right, you will realize that your C plus I is actually above 45-degree line. And then this means that firms, right, your consumption is higher than how much you produce or how much you earn. So it means that your consumption or your spending, your total spending in the economy is more than what it is producing. Okay, at this point, okay, oops. Okay, at this point, your spending, right, aggregate spending is higher than the total output of the economy and the income, right? It is higher. Now, if in this point, if you go into a cafe, right, consumers are spending more than what you can produce, you will actually find out that the firms, okay, firms would have sold out their current output, right? Current output. So what they have planned to sell has already finished selling. Okay, and now they will have to incur, right? Let's say at the 200, right? They actually plan to only sell for 200. Okay, but now because people coming in and spend for 240, so you have this shortfall of things of 40 billion, right? You have this 40 billion difference, right? This 40 billion difference is basically your inventories and what we call the unplanned inventory. Your unplanned inventory will have $40 billion that is to be sold. Okay, that is to be sold to the people. So once they sell this $40 billion inventory out, then they will think, okay, they have to increase their production or their output by the next period. Okay, so at this point here, right, they are actually have a aggregate spending higher, right, because your C and I is higher than your 45-degree. Okay, or at this coordination, you can see that your level of disposable income doesn't equal to your aggregate expenditure. right? And in this case, you see that your spending is higher than the level of income and the output of the economy, right? So it is not at a stable state. It is not of an macroeconomic equilibrium. Therefore, firms have already finished selling out all of their current output. And the difference between the spending, which is 240 and 200, is the 40 billion, right? The 40 billion, let me just get this right, billion, right? The 40 billion difference is basically inventory, unplanned inventory has actually decreased, right? Decrease in the inventory. Okay, so because what they have in stock, they already sell it out. They now sell it out for that $40 billion. They did not plan to sell the $40 billion things here. But because it already used that $40 billion, you see that there's a decrease in your inventory at this point, right? And therefore, you have this gap here, okay, that decrease in inventory. Then in the next period of time, what happened is that they will try to increase their output because they have alert, right? They have received this alert. Then you will see that it soon, right? There's a magic happen is that you will see that your firms will continue to produce more, right? And your consumption will also increase at the same time, right? Until they meet together to a stable point at B. Okay, if the economy is at this point, right? If your consumption or your aggregate spending is more than your output, okay, this is what happened. Now, when firms come in, you can only talk about the difference of the inventory, right? Like what we learned yesterday, we did not learn about this thing, okay, because we did not have firms. Okay, now if we look at the other part, what if our consumption or our disposable income is at 400? Okay, now if it's at 400, right, let me just erase this part. 400, then you will see that your consumption is actually around 460, I believe. 360. Yeah. Okay. Now, if it is at 400, your consumption is at 360, right? Now, in this case, you have a different scenario, correct? Your aggregate spending is definitely lesser than your output, right? So people spending lesser than what the economy is producing. Okay, people spending less than what the economy is producing. Now, if you were firms, right, what will you do? If you suddenly, if you accidentally have a lot more coffee bean and you produce too many coffee, how? Nobody want to buy. Then tomorrow, what will you do, right? Now, what happened at first initially is they realize that their output is higher than spending. It's when firms, right, firm has an increased, okay, firm has an increase or have unsold output, or what we call inventories, right? So they see that, suddenly you actually produce this much, but nobody want to buy. So the part that nobody want to buy will be categorized as your inventory. So your inventory actually increase. Okay, how much does your inventory increase? By the amount of the difference of your output and your spending. So 400 billion, right, minus your 360 billion, that is $40 billion of your inventory increase. Okay, now as this increase, what happened? How will firms react next? Okay, at this point, they will then, next step they will do is they will cut their production. Okay, after they cut their production and they realize, oh, they cut a little bit, maybe not enough, then cut more, cut more, cut more, cut more, right? Then you will see that both, right, will come to B, where it is at the equilibrium, where you have your demand and your supply is at the equilibrium, where your output and your spending is the same. Okay, now that's basically what happens to this part here. Okay, I don't think we can possibly go on to the next step and talk about what happened. The last one that I wanted to talk about for today is your B. B is your equilibrium, right? It is very important to understand that at B, it is at equilibrium, it's very stable. There is nothing changed, right? The planned spending is matching the output, right? How much you plan to sell is ngam you sell that much. Okay, ngam. Oh, why do I even use that word? Okay, so it is when your 45-degree line actually cuts with your C and I, and there is no change in your inventory. Okay, now if you look at the last part here, before we finish the class, your change in inventory, right? Your inventory, if it's negative, it means that you have sold out, right? You sold out. So during the time when it's 0 YD, right, or when it's 120 C plus I, you actually did not plan to sell as much, but you actually have an unplanned inventory change of 120, right? As you move along, as you produce more and more to suit with the demand, right, you have no change in your inventory because you are just suiting, or you are just matching with what the demand is or what the spending is, right? But if you keep on producing more, you will see that your inventory actually accumulated. Okay, inventory actually accumulated. Okay, now that is the case for your change in inventory. Now, effect on your output. How will your output behave, right? For this part here, right, because of your inventory decrease, right, your output have to keep on increase in order to match the spending. So your output increase your production. Okay, you will keep on producing more and more during this time, right? When you are below the, when you are in, when your 45-degree is more than your when your consumption or your aggregate expenditure is higher than your 45-degree, you will then increase your production. Okay. Now, after you have passed through the equilibrium, and it becomes the other way around, when the 45-degree line is below, is it below? No. When your consumption or your aggregate expenditure is below your output, you will see that your output would want to decrease in order to get back to the equilibrium. Okay, so that is what this part here means. Okay, now here you can read on your own, right? Either how tomorrow I will still explain it. Right, now today you just have to practice this graph on your own, and then just submit the exercise that I asked you all to do yesterday, okay, by tonight. Okay, now that's it for today. Hope you all understand and enjoy the class of drawing, drawing graphs. Now I just want to check if people are here. Isaac has left. Where is my dear Isaac? Okay, the others. Okay, I will want to message some people who are not here. Okay, thank you for joining my class. I hope you all learned something. Remember to subscribe, like, and ring the bell to get updated. No. Okay, if you have any questions, please come and see me. Let me just stop the recording. Okay,